Hey everyone, Oz here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to bring you a guide. This is going to be part of what I am calling the Mechacademy series. So I'm taking what was the In the Lab and the Workshop Wednesday, combining them all together into one sort of learning focused video series, and that's going to be called the Mechacademy. And we've also got a Mechacademy Discord. So you can join us in the Discord and ask questions and follow along and learn how to play Mechabellum with us together in the Discord. Join the community. It's a lot of fun. We do lots of cool stuff. We have, challenges, and we share a lot of replays and have a lot of fun there. So it'd be exciting to have you there. But back to this video. This is mostly about what to do when round one starts. What am I thinking about when the game starts? What am I looking at in my packs? How am I going to arrange my units? What units pair well together? And a little bit of like maybe what specialist. If you're kind of confused about the best way to start the game, this could be a good guide for you. This is going to be focused mostly on beginner to intermediate level players, because advanced level players, you've already found a style that you're happy with and you're comfortable with and you're learning and you can figure it out. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Right off the bat, talking about unit specialists, they're pretty much all viable. The only one I would avoid as a beginner or an intermediate player would be the elite spec. So elite spec is you get an extra 100 supply, but you can recruit level 2 units. So yeah, cool, we get extra money, but you're kind of deploying less units. They cost more. It's very different from all the other specialists. So I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner, because what you want to have is to gain more experience as a general in a regular sort of game of Mechabellum. Wait to choose elite spec till later on. All the other ones totally playable, totally fine. Even cost control. Don't worry about the reduced damage numbers or health numbers. It's okay. There's a few breakpoints, but it's not terribly important, especially at the beginner and intermediate level. So if we're not really concerned about specialists, what is it that we are concerned about? Well, it's actually the units that are offered in the pack. So the units are the most important thing. When the game starts and there's 4 options offered, I don't even look at the specialists. I look at the units. And then when I see, oh, maybe this one could work, maybe this one could work, then I'll look at the specialists and make my decision then. So I'm going to pull up on the screen here all the different unit pairings that you can get when the game starts. So these are all the packs. What I want you to think about is, how do I complete my, what I'm going to call like the 3 pillars of Mechabellum, the 3 sort of areas, like important areas or roles, I guess we would call them. So the first role being chaff. Chaff is basically a large number of bodies with low HP. So that would be your fangs or your crawlers. And those are units that are meant to die, to absorb big impacts so that your opponent has a lot of over damage, right? So if they have a high DPS unit that has a slow rate of fire, they'll shoot 1 shot and they'll kill 1 fang, and they would have to do it again and again and again until they finally get through that pack and onto what they really want to do damage against, which would be your higher HP units. So your chaff, those are your fangs and your crawlers. Great. So if you can't kill them with high DPS units, what do you kill them with? Well, your chaff clear units. The chaff clear units would be like your AoE stuff, right? You want to kill a bunch of bodies. You have less overall damage, but maybe a higher rate of fire or higher AoE in order to clean up all those low HP units. So example of that obviously would be the Arclight and the Tarantula. Those are great chaff clear units. The Mustang is sometimes chaff clear, but it's got a scale into it. It's really good against fangs. Against crawlers, it struggles a little bit because they got more HP. You kind of want to have higher levels on your Mustangs in order to make it a chaff clear unit. So as it stands in the beginner and without any upgrades either, don't consider it a chaff clear unit. It's not. The other sort of pseudo chaff clear unit would be your saber or not saber tooth, your sledgehammer. So sledgehammer is the tanks on the left side there. They have a little bit of splash, and they can sort of hold their own if you're on equal level of packs of chaff. So if you have a pack that has two sledgehammers, and you go against an opponent who picked a pack that doesn't have chaff, the maximum amount of chaff they could buy would be 2 in round 1, right? You have $200, you can buy 2 100 cost units. So in that case, it's actually totally acceptable to skip chaff clear on round 1 and get something else. Okay, but I'm getting a little advanced there, so let's bring it back a bit. The third sort of pillar or role of Mechabellum would be your, what did I say? Your chaff clear, and your DPS. So your DPS is your high target damage unit. So that would be your marksman, your saber tooth, your void eyes, those kinds of things. The steel ball as well is a great single target damage unit. So when you're looking at these packs, there are some that pair really well together. The most obvious ones are ones that have a high DPS and a chaff clear together. So what that means is that you would have a unit that just chaff clear, it clears all the fangs and crawlers, and then your high DPS single target damage unit can then lock on to the high HP units of your enemy more easily. So great examples of this are the Tarantula Marksman. A+ pack. It does everything, right? You've got your range, you've got your DPS, and your chaff clear. The Tarantula Void Eye, also very good. It has a few more bodies even. And what's great about that is the Void Eye and the Tarantula walk at the same speed. So they work great together. You can just put them near each other and they're going to work. Yeah, other things like the Saber, if we use that as a single target, then you want to pair it with chaff clear. So you would go the Saber with the Hound or the Saber with the Arclight. Both great options. And again, they pair well together nicely. You just kind of put them near each other and they're going to kind of work. You don't have to think too much about it. A little more technical, but you can go into the Steel Ball stuff. So Steel Ball Hound works pretty well together. And Steel Ball is a bit faster than the Hound, so a little bit trickier. And Steel Ball and the Arclight do also work together, but the Arclight is much, much slower. So the positioning is harder. So I wouldn't actually recommend that pack for a beginner. But the Steel Ball and the Hound, great. Steel Ball and Crawler is also great. So normally and previously, before buildings, you almost always had to pick a pack that had chaff. But nowadays that we have the AoE building and we call them the Chungus, right? Chungai, the two turrets and the wall. So they can help you deal with the first round chaff. So you don't have to pick a chaff pack anymore. You can pick pretty much whatever pack you want. But what you should do is if you pick a pack that does not have chaff, you should be buying 2 chaff. Okay? So that means if you pick your Spider and Marksman pack, which I said was a great pack, what you want to build with that is you want to round out your 3 roles. You want your chaff. That is what's missing. You build the chaff. We can take that and apply it to any of these packs, right? So Saber Hound or Saber Arc, again, we're missing chaff. Let's build that chaff. We can build crawlers if we want to be aggressive and fast, or we can build fangs if we want to be a little bit slower. let's take that now and look at the packs that have the chaff already. So if we have the spider, the tarantula and the crawler pack, right? Now we have chaff and we have chaff clear, but we're missing DPS. So then you can buy 2 arc lights, or sorry, not arc lights, 2 void eyes or 2 marksmen. And yeah, that's great. They work well together. And so you can kind of get a good foundation for round 1 just by trying to look at those rolls. You don't even really have to look at the opponent's board. It can help, right? You can, as you get better, you can look at the board and try to, cut corners, basically. But as it stands for now, just try to focus on those 3 main rolls. Now, where does the sledgehammer kind of fit in on this? The sledgehammer can kind of do a whole lot of stuff. It's a very versatile unit. Sledgehammer is the king of standard. Standard meaning you like to play more defensive. You want to have your opponent come and aggress into you, and you want to defend it and just build a big army and win the game that way, right? The sledgehammer is great because it's got a lot of HP. It's a little bit of splash damage, and it's got a little bit of DPS as well. And depending on what techs you take, you can kind of push it down different rolls later on, right? You can go for damage sharing, armor, regen, and go as like a tanky kind of roll. Or you can go for like armor piercing, EMP range, mech rage, that kind of stuff for techs if you want to be like a carry, like DPS roll. So what pack do you choose? Avoid the Mustangs. They're a bit trickier. Any other packs are okay. The sledges, very strong for standard play. The other 3 are very strong for aggro play. You don't have to play aggro or standard. You could play, you don't have to be forced into that role based on the pack you select, right? You can pick tarantulas and have them back and play standard like that. Same with the steel balls. I see them sometimes all the way on the back line. It's totally fine. Oh, all right. So let's jump into the game a little bit here, and I will show you some examples of unit pairings. So here we go. Great unit pairings. These are units that you just kind of put near each other, and they're just going to kind of work. You don't need to think too hard about it. So like I was saying, tarantula and marksman. Just put the tarantula kind of in front of the marksman. It can clear the chaff, and then the marksman can deal the damage afterwards. This is great. Tarantula void eye. Now there is a little bit of variance here. If your opponent has sabers being a pretty hard counter to the tarantula here, you want to have your void eyes a little bit in front. That way the saber would shoot them rather than your tarantula. If your opponent doesn't have sabers, or maybe steel balls or some other like really high DPS unit like that, you can bring them back like this, or even a little farther back if you like. And that way you can use them with carry text. You can get range, you can get suppression shot is good. You can get charge shot. And the charge shot obviously would be the icing on the cake here. That's really the real sort of DPS role with the void eyes here. But yeah, either of those works great. Steel balls. So steel ball, you kind of want to have a hound with it. And if you're deploying it, you want to have the hound kind of in front because the hound is a bit slower. But what is neat is the steel balls, these are the same speed, right? The crawler and the steel ball, they both move 16 meters per second. So if you were to run into a tarantula, maybe you want to have the steel ball first because it can tank the AoE better. if you were to run into Void Eyes or Marksman, maybe you want to have it the other way around, like this, where you have the crawlers first, because then the crawlers can take the high DPS and save your balls a bit. So that decision is left up to you based on how your opponent's playing. Good unit pairing here as well, the Sabertooth with the Hounds. If you see this pack, this is a great pack. You just kind of put the Hounds near the Sabers and it kind of works out. Sabers can, or sorry, the Sabers can be in front of the Hounds. They don't really need to be afraid of a whole lot. So it's fine. You can maybe, put them in front if you're suspecting some kind of thing, like what we talked about with the tarantulas and void eyes here. But most likely you can just have them kind of behind or even beside like this. This is all completely fine. As long as they're kind of near each other, it's gonna kind of work out, guys. The arc lights, same concept, right? Just kind of have them kind of near each other. It's gonna work out. So, all right. So if we had a pack like this, right? What's missing? Chaff. So I would spend my $200 on crawlers. And I would put them behind maybe like this, or depending on how close to the line I want to be, like, or whatever, maybe I could do this, have them behind my sabers so that the crawlers will get there a little bit faster. Either way, completely fine. A cool benefit of having the crawlers behind the hounds is that they will filter through the hounds and separate, which means it makes AoE a little bit more annoying for your opponent to deal with, right? So if you can get your fangs, or sorry, your crawlers separated, that's always benefit. Yeah, so any of these packs, yeah, throw down some crawlers behind your units like this. That's great. That's great. This is all totally fine. Cool. All right. So now that we've got kind of the basics kind of covered here, let's jump into a few replays and we're going to look at how they play and what positions they take and what units they choose. All right, let's go. So we're here in the game client on the tournament tab, and here you can select any of the tournaments that have happened for examples here. So we're going to join the advanced group of the European tournament. And we're going to look at Mechabellum. Mechabellum won this advanced tournament, so it would be a great example to have a look at their replays. Anyone has the ability to do this if you're not familiar, so definitely go check out the tournament tab, and you can find lots of replays and tools and how to get better. So we've got Mechabellum here, and we've got Supply Spec, Quick Supply, Aerial, and Rhino, but we are looking more specifically at the units in the pack. So the units here, Quick Supply, yeah, maybe. Rhino looks pretty good. We've got, yeah, there we go. Rhino is picked. We got the Saber Arclight. That is our unit pairing. For FBI, we've got the Tarantula Fang. So I'm just going to flip over here. And remember, we're talking about their 3 roles. So for math, we would most likely see Chaff, right? There we go. We've got 2 packs of crawlers here. And for FBI, open up, we most likely will be seeing some kind of damage unit. And there we go. We've got Marksman picked. So both players choosing to play an asymmetrical defensive game. That's not terribly important. The important thing is our unit composition here on round 1. We're filling all of our roles, and we're putting those like units near each other. They're just going to kind of work. Arclight 7 move speed, Saber 8 move speed. So they're kind of near each other. That's completely fine. And then the crawlers, they're 16 move speed, so they're farther back. So that by the time that we were to clash, these units would be more like just getting to the front, right? Same with here, we've got the marksman at 8 move speed and the tarantula 8 move speed. These are going to walk together all the same. The fangs at 6 move speed, so just a tiny bit slower. And that's why fangs you'll see often put kind of in front of them. Yeah. Next replay. Let's look at another math replay here. Okay, 2 ball packs. We have the Fire Badger pack, which has Mustang. We do not want that. The Aerial pack looks pretty good if you don't want to play ball. If you do want to play ball, then maybe Amp would be the better one, because Arclight speed is not the best with this. Yeah, we see Math choosing the Tarantula pack. Tarantula Crawler. So we have our Chaff Clear. We have our Chaff. And are we going to see a DPS unit picked up? Maybe. But going against Sabers, there's maybe a bit of a pro tip is like, yeah, it's hard to go into Sabers and you need more bodies. So what you see here is maybe a bit of a more advanced maneuver, right? We have 1 pack of fangs chosen here to be in front, because what you don't want as Tarantula is to have the opponent's Sabers to lock on the Tarantulas right away. So this is kind of in front. Then we have all the chaff coming in this line, and then this line, and then this line. They're all kind of in a line. So they're going to reach the front, not all at once, but one after the other. So you have a continuous stream. You can buy all this chaff because the opponent started with also 3 packs of chaff. So they could only ever have 2 chaff clear units. So yeah, this is maybe a little more advanced here, but that's the reasoning there. Let's look at versus AWM. Cool. Okay, so there's 2 Mustang packs. Probably know on both of those already. Quick supply and speed. Oh, actually, we do go for the Mustang pack here. An AWM. This pack looks good. Yeah. So the Saber Hound, they go together very well. So Mathis might. Yeah, probably didn't have the best selection of packs that they wanted there. So they're using the Mustang as their chaff clear. But they do get kind of lucky in this way that Sabers are not good against Mustangs because there's too many bodies. And then we see Math for 2 packs of chaff to round things out. So you have your chaff clear, chaff, and your DPS. So still kind of filling those roles. AWM has a DPS, chaff clear, and the chaff, filling all the roles. Nice. Okay, let's look at Shade Off versus Raven here. All right, so balls if you like balls. Otherwise, from these packs, yeah, Amp. Okay, so Amp looks pretty good as a standard pack. You have your sledges and your marksman, your DPS, and your sort of pseudo chaff clear / tank. And then Raven has gone for the Arclight Saber. So this is our, our classic unit pairing already. Right? We have Saber Arclight, our DPS, and our chaff clear. And Raven, notice, did not have chaff in their pack. So 2 sledges is completely acceptable as chaff clear. And most likely we're going to see chaff out of Shade Off here. You have your DPS, you have your acceptable chaff clear. and most likely chaff. There we go. So in this case, we have fangs, and they're going to go in front because they're slower. And see, guys, like, don't worry that your opponent has 3 arc lights. You still need the chaff. And now let's watch against Hacker Man. All right, so not elite unless you like elite. Cost control is a good pairing, but if you want to play standard, like fortified, looks good here. Let me actually see amp specs. So we're going to do Tarantula and Crawler. Hackerman has gone quick sup. A lot more flexibility with quick sup. It's my favorite specialist because of that. But don't worry too much about that. As Tarantula going into Saber feels kind of bad usually, because Sabers were quite good against Tarantula. But we'll see here what Shade Off does. Most likely going to be getting some DPS units like Void Eye. Yeah. So, right. Great unit pairing, like we talked about. Your Tarantula doing your DPS or your AoE damage, and your Void Eye doing your single target. So in a good position, the Tarantula would be able to clear all the chaff, and then the Void Eyes would be able to deal with the Sabers, and your Crawlers would hopefully be able to tank the shots of the Sabers so that your Tarantulas don't. And as for the other side, Hackerman has gone for 3 packs of chaff. A bit crazy here, but they probably have some specific strategy in mind. It's a bit odd to not have the chaff clear units with the Saber, but they may be taking a bit of a risk, knowing that the Sabers, if they get good locks on the Tarantula, they'd win the round anyway. Also looks like maybe they'd be going into something like Carry Fang or something like that. So, yeah. Okay, let's look at the Asian weekend or the Asian region. And we see K against XYK. Okay, so from these packs, let's see here. XYK has, like, this is a good, whoops. Okay, so we've got Cost Control, which is the Arc Light and Saber. Good pairing, great. As for K has chosen the Sledge with the Crawler. So with this pretty standard formation here, most likely we're going to see a Crawler, maybe a Crawler over here, either a Crawler in the middle or on one of the sides, and then the Sledge is kind of in the middle inside of the tower here. And this is your typical standard formation. XYK going for Saber Arc. Buying 2 Crawlers. So yeah, we're going to see, what are we going to see here? We're going to see a DPS unit. Yeah, okay, the Void Eye. There we go. So we get our chaff clear, right? 2 Sabers can deal with 2 Crawlers. That's fine. Later on, you're going to need to get some other kind of chaff clear because it doesn't scale, and there'll be more chaff on the board. But for first round, totally fine. Then we have our Void Eye, our single target damage, and then we have our chaff. So I think that's about it for now. I don't want this video to go on for too long. Maybe next video we'll be talking more about positioning and what kind of typical positioning we could see on boards, more so than just unit pairings. But for now, hopefully this is enough for you to maybe learn something and feel more familiar choosing which pack that you think would be best. And yeah, let me know down in the comments what you thought, and join the Discord. If you have questions, that's what we're here for. Join the Mechacademy. We're gonna learn this game together and have fun. And yeah, would love to have you. So that would be great. Like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. Much appreciated to everyone who does that. And yeah, you'll see me in the next video very soon. Have a good day, everyone.